and then cut it off when it's at the high point.
Yeah.
And we are now live to Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble.
Outstanding.
Wow. It's crazy. Crazy. Even though we've put just a quick this is an admin note for Fig. I've put it in portrait mode, vice landscape, and that looks really silly. So I put it back to landscape. But even if we put our cameras in portrait, I don't know. I think Reese is going to have to change it over manually. So right. Sticks is here. Hello, Sticks.
Hello, Sticks.
Sticks, this is Rosie. Rosie, you can't see or hear Sticks. He's our behind-the-scenes brains. He makes stuff happen for us. He makes us look good. So everybody's audio sounds pretty good tonight. I think we're pretty close to going live, man. There's no reason not to shred this thing.
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right.
Are you introducing our guest?
Yeah, so he's going to do the tease. And then
I can't wait for this.
Yeah, why don't you pick it up out of the tees?
Okay.
And then hand it off to me, and I'll go back to bring up the fact that Ice.
This happened.
Yeah, the Ice brought him to us. What a great thank you so much, Dan. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you doing that. I do not know why this thing cuts off my daggum head. I'm back up there and see if that's any better.
It's such a pretty head.
It's well, you know. Hey, look, I got all this beautiful head of hair. I got to show it.
Lost all mine.
Just don't pull my toupee off. All right. I see some more photos came in. I'll try and produce those as the show goes. It may or may not happen. But so what you'll hear, sir, is this music here.
Hey.
Can you hear it?
This here is a true story.
And when it gets to this part here, it'll fade.
At I was crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond.
As you hear him say, "I wasn't exactly fond," we would like you to jump into your teaser, if you would kindly, and 30 seconds or so. Then Fig will pick it up. Fig will hand it to me, and we'll come back to you. You ready, Fig?
Yeah.
You ready, Rosie?
I am.
All right.
Woo! I'm
going to reset this, Pig. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. I'm going to reset the timer. I'm going to get notes up and ready.
Pilot to gunner, are you ready, sir?
Yeah.
I am ready.
Right. Ha-ha!
Right.
Well,
Yes!
All right. Here we go. Here goes nothing.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Well, I can't.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit on the tanker through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the...
Okay. Well, I was, of course, I was nose gunner on a B-24 bomber, and we were flying missions, and this was probably our 20-some mission, and we always, when we brief us, when we were going to go to the site, they would brief how many anti-aircraft guns they would have. And so we'd always say, well, if they had about 100 guns, that's not too bad. 300 or 400 guns, that's bad. So we were going to St. Valentine, Germany, or Austria, and they had about 150 guns. So we thought, well, that's not too bad. It's going to be okay. So anyway, we were flying along, getting ready to. We always had a number of planes, a group. There'd be 28 planes flying over at the same time, and so we turned it on what we call the PI. We were sure we were going to go over the target, and just about the time we got to the target, it hit this big bang, and it was right out in front of me because I was in a nose turret. And I thought, oh boy, they didn't get us that shot, but the next one they're going to get us. We're dead. And that's what we all thought. We were dead.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there waiting for the next shot. That's it.
That's got. I have ice water running in my veins right now, Rosie. Oh, because I'm in the middle of the series. The one that just started that depicts the 8th Air Force,
Masters of the Air.
Masters of the Air, and
So that's how all great aviation tales begin. Who's talking?
hey,
Look to your left and tell us who you are.
Hey, this is Fig, and boy, am I excited for this interview. I am. I just got home from a trip, and my timing is perfect because I am back at home in Kearney, Missouri. Where's my co-host?
I am coming to you from Maastricht in the Netherlands, which was yesterday. Was just across the German border, the place of many of the targets that our tonight's guest was going for. Some 75 to 80 years ago. Our guest tonight, none other than Rosie. Not a pilot, but you don't need to be a pilot. You need to love aviation, which clearly he did. And he spent much of World War II, the end of World War II, in the nose turret of a B-24 bomber.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What a terrifying place to be, but also amazing. You're going to hear tonight, folks, or today or this morning, wherever you happen to be, you're going to hear
firsthand account
of what it was like to be in a B-24. And you're going to hear, what I wanted to say is you're going to hear why this is the greatest generation. So to you, Rosie, we welcome you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
We're honored and humbled.
Such an honor. Such an honor.
But take us back to the beginning. You didn't wake up in the nose turret of a B-24 facing flak and anti-aircraft guns. Where were you when the war broke out, and how long did it take you to decide that you wanted to take part? And tell us, how'd you get interested?
Okay, well, I lived on a ranch back in Kansas, small cattle ranch, and born in there and raised there until I left to go to the service, of course. But I was 13 years old when the war came along. Prior to that, I'm a depression baby because that's where we were poor, very poor family, and we had hardly anything to eat. And people was very poor. The Dust Bowl happened during that time, so I come from a very humble family. And
yes, sir. And what exactly was the Dust Bowl? I think we all have, many of us have a picture of it. But
Bowls in 34 and 36, and that's when all the people left for Oklahoma for California. They couldn't survive. It didn't rain for 2 years or 3 years at all. And you couldn't raise crops because we were farmers and couldn't raise crops. And so it was a very bad time. And luckily I was only in my teens or early teens, or preteens, so I didn't realize the severity of the situation. But anyway, when I was 13 years old, that's when they announced the war starting in Europe between Germany and England and France. And being 13, and everybody said, we're going to be in the war. And I said, well, I'm only 13. I'm not going to be in the war. So we kind of let it be. So when I had to go to high school, I graduated from high school when I was 17. And as a teenager, I was anxious to do something. And of course, they were getting ready for the invasion of France. And that was a foregone conclusion. And I was born a coward, and I didn't want to be in the infantry. So I said, I'm going to go join the Army Air Corps. At that time, it was the Army Air Corps.
Right.
So I tried to go join, and I took my physical. I flunked the physical because they said I had a heart murmur. So I said, okay, now what do I do? So I went to work for just a few months down at the airplane factory in Wichita. And then I said, I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to get in the Air Force somehow. So the next time I took a physical, he said, you got high blood pressure and you're too nervous.
Oh my
You can't have me. And I said, I got to get in. I told him, I got to get in. I got to get in because I didn't want to be in the infantry because I knew that as soon as you turn 18, you're in the Army.
Right.
That's the way it was. Yeah. So anyway, I finally talked to the guy and pleaded with him to pass me, and he did. And
Nice.
So anyway, so I said, "Oh, that's great. Now I'm going to be an officer. I'm going to be a cadet. I'm going to be an officer. I'm going to be a pilot, or a bombardier, or a navigator." That was the 3 officer positions.
Right.
So I got it. So I signed up for that, ready to go. And so the day I was 18, got my notice, and went in the service, and we went to Jefferson Barracks, Missouri, for our basic training. And we were there for about a month and about 6 weeks. Supposed to be there for 3 months. Got there 3 weeks, and they said, the management says, we're running out of aerial gunners. So you guys are no longer going to be cadets and officers. You're going to be aerial gunners. So they shipped us off to Kingman, Arizona, aerial gunnery school. And we spent about 3 months there learning how to shoot machine guns and pistols and carbines. That was the three weapons.
Okay.
And so we got that. And then after 3 months, said, okay, now we're going to go to crew training. So they sent us to Lincoln, Nebraska. It says, all right, this is where you're going to pick up your crew. And so it was very kind of exciting and scary because we're going to pick up, like in my case, we're going to pick up nine partners. Never
Right.
met them before, didn't know anything about them. They didn't know anything about me. But anyhow, they threw us together. And so anyway, that's how our crew was furnished together.
Wow.
And but luckily everybody's always about, well, what kind of a pilot are we going to have, for crying out loud, because we had no control over, but we got a pilot. He was 21 years old, and that guy was something else. He was a gentleman from the square one, the greatest guy I ever met, to tell you the truth.
But he was the old man at 21.
Yeah, he was. There's 2 guys older than he was, but he was a boss. He was our leader. We'd go anywhere for that guy because he was a great pilot, very good leader, and just very.
What was his name, sir?
James Nixon.
Okay.
And so anyway, we had these 5 of us, but what I always thought was kind of interesting. All the guys were city guys, but me, I was this farm boy.
Yeah.
I was kind of kind of a fish out of water, so to speak. So I always like to say the guys were all streetwise, but me, I wasn't very streetwise. So.
Hey, Rosie, what part of Kansas did you grow up in?
I was in southeastern Kansas. Southeastern Kansas, south of Topeka. About 50 miles.
I'm not too far from there. Right now, I'm in Kearney, Missouri. We're just across the state line there.
Yeah. So I of course, my family were French. They came from France. They all lived in Opie, which is about 20 miles from where I lived. And it was a 99% Catholic, Roman Catholic community. And that's how I'm a Roman Catholic. And so anyway, we lived there all my until I was 24 years old when I left the home, So anyway, where was I?
Well, you had met your crew in Lincoln, Nebraska. You met the pilot.
Yeah, and it was an interesting crew. We had our navigator. He was the oldest guy. He was, I think, 25 or 6 years old.
Oh, geez.
He was old. He was an old man, And I think the next oldest, our flight engineer, was 22 or 23. And of course, our pilot was 21. Our co-pilot was 20. And tail gunner was 18 and I was 18. And I think a couple of the guys are 19, mostly 19 years old. So we were really a young crew. And they called us a young crew. Everywhere we went, we were a young crew because we were the youngest crew.
Wow.
The thing we had was
I'm going to do this on a whim because the weirder things have happened in life. But I have to ask. When I was in college, I worked with a gent at the state board licensing board for contractors in Louisiana, and there was a B-24 tail gunner that I worked with there. His name was Cactus Martin. Ring a bell?
no.
Okay, I had to try. Yeah, I don't know his first name. I think it was Jim, but it was Cactus Martin.
I was
So
gonna say that man's name was Cactus.
yeah, and that's what everybody called him, Cactus. And
All right.
We had a kind of an interesting crew. Like I say, we had a great pilot. He was from Philadelphia,
okay,
and just a great man. But our co-pilot, he was 20. He'd never been in a B-24 before, and he was assigned co-pilot to B-24.
Yeah.
In fact, the only person on our crew that had ever been in a B-24 was the pilot. He knew how to fly. He was a pilot. He checked out pilot B-24. The rest of us never been in a B-24. They didn't know what they're talking about. So,
Wow.
could you point to an airplane and say airplane?
Yeah.
It sounds like that was the qualification. Oh my God.
So anyway, I always my pilot, he was like, what a bunch of motley crew he's got, because none of them had ever been in a plane. Because I'd flown this B-17 during gunnery school, but I'd never been in an airplane. And several of the other guys have been tail gunners the same way. He'd never been in an airplane before. And so
Insane. Well, let me back up. I know everybody's dying to hear the airplane stories, as am I. But so your 18th birthday, you go down, you enlist, and you wind up in training. What was training like? I imagine it was very different than it is today.
They called those days called basic training, and what you just you learn to march and how to discipline, how to respect officers and how to salute, all the basic things and usually that always happened for 3 months. You do a little training in maybe a carbine rifle training a little bit, but that was all set aside because we were there on 6 weeks. We're supposed to be there 3 months. I said, you're going to go to gunnery school. So we missed out on most of our basic training. And so for whatever reason, I was just standing around with my hands in my pockets, but I was on a fast track. We were all on fast track. Because they were really gearing up, the Army Air Corps was really gearing up. They wanted to pound everything that moved, which is what we did when we got over there. So anyway, so then we went to Casper, Wyoming. That's where we had our crew training. We were there for 3 months, and that's where the co-pilot learned how to fly B-24. And the rest of us learned how to shoot guns out of a moving target, at a moving target. And so, but after 3 months, they said, that's enough. Got to go overseas now. So we all got physicals, and so when they come to me for my physical, you've got high blood pressure. You shouldn't.
Yeah, I'm going into battle. What do you expect?
Well, I told my pilot, I said, I can't leave you guys now.
No.
They wanted to ground me, and I said, no, I can't do that.
No.
Together, and I said, that wasn't fair to those guys. So anyway, as dumb as I was, I talked the flight surgeon into letting me stay on the crew.
Nice.
I look back and I got kind of crazy, wasn't he? But
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. What were you thinking?
Anyway, so then the crew was over, and so we sent it home for 10-day furlough, and I said, get your personal affairs in order.
Yeah. Right. Oh,
may
shit.
not come back. She said. So they told us that you may not come back.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did. So anyway, then we went. It turned out to end up at Topeka, Kansas, which is only about 50 miles from where I lived. So I got a little furlough, say goodbye to my parents one more time, and then we when we were on the way to the East Coast, we stopped in Chicago and we met a bunch of guys at the depot, train depot, that just coming back, air crews just coming back from England, and they scared the hell out of us.
Oh boy.
It's because they were telling me it was bad, mortality rate was pretty high, and I always like to say that that's when we got that knot in our stomach that was there the rest of the war. Yes.
So you were changing trains, they were changing trains, and you're talking to each other in the coffee shops and such.
That's exactly right. Yes. So that's when I guess if people ask me sometimes, when did you realize you might be going to war? I think that's when we realized. And I always remember I got that knot in my stomach.
Longer an abstract concept.
No, that's where it got real.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then they took us to West Virginia, and that's where we embarked on a boat to a ship to overseas. So we got on our ship, and it was a Liberty ship in those days. That's when Kaiser was making all these Liberty ships for the war effort, and we was on a troop ship, and we were on it for 26 days. So we got overseas. Yeah. Well, kind of interesting. On the way, it was in a convoy, and one night there was a big explosion, and a tanker right next to us in the convoy was torpedoed by a German submarine.
I was just about to ask you: was the U-boat, the U-boats in the Atlantic, still a problem at that?
Oh point? Yeah, they were a real problem. So we were in a convoy, and we had a lot of destroyer escorts, Navy escorts, and they were always flitting around. But somehow, they got through the screen or whatever, and so they torpedoed a couple ships in our convoy that we were aware of, because we had probably 100 ships in the convoy.
Oh my gosh!
And so anyway, so we didn't sleep that night, and I might back up just a little bit. While my crew training, I was airsick every day.
Oh, I was going to ask about that. It didn't seem like they cared, right?
Well, no, they did not. But I always said, I could walk out. I told my pilot, I said, I could walk out to that bomber. I always got into the bomb bay. I said, all I had to do was just stuck my head in the bomb bay. I didn't even have 1 foot off the ground yet, and I was airsick.
That's not good. That's not good, Rosie.
It was hot.
That's horrible.
Very hot, and a lot of people throwing up, so there's vomit all over the place, and then high octane gasoline.
Yeah.
It just turned my stomach right then. But I hung in there, and my pilot hung in there with me. And so when we got ready to go overseas, got on a boat, I got seasick. But I had a sailor come up to me from a boat there in the ship, and he says, to get over this seasickness, just look at the horizon. Don't look at anything else. Spend about 3 hours looking at the horizon. Nothing else. Just look at the horizon. I did that. I never got airsick after that. I'm seasick after that. So he cured that. So,
that was awesome. That was good advice then, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we didn't know where we was going to go, because nobody's saying we're going east. We know he's going to Europe. We didn't know where. Well, one morning we woke up and we saw the Rock of Gibraltar, and so then we knew we were going to Italy. So
yeah, okay.
Whoa, that's and I'm sorry. Where in Virginia did you go from? Norfolk.
That's Newport News. That was it.
Newport News. Yeah. Okay.
We're in the St. Patrick Henry base before we went to
okay.
We were embarked.
And how many of you were cargo on that ship? So,
do you
recall?
They must have been over 100. I'm sure there's over 100 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about your training, your aerial gunnery training, before we get too far down the road? Your aerial gunnery training. Did you say it was Kingman, Arizona?
That was yeah.
So I know you said you shot machine guns and carbines and handguns, but did you actually get any experience airborne shooting the gun, or was it all
Two
on the ground?
times we hit one with Kingman. They took us down to Yuma, which is, and they were based down there, and they put us on a B-17 and just took us up to learn how to, not just to shoot, but how to, you had to have oxygen and, like stuff like that. You had,
Oh, right. Yeah.
don't know
Because
anything
you were,
about that.
yeah,
So,
you guys were
How
flying
not
around
to pass out
unpressured-
in your airplane.
Yeah, flying around unpressurized with really no heat. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
so-
my gosh.
well, anyway, then they just shoot at shoot at targets on the ground, like ground strafing. But
Now-
that's all the training we had.
I-
That was my first time in an airplane. So it was exciting. I was an 18-year-old kid. It's fun.
I don't want to get too far ahead, and if you're going to cover this, just stop me. But so I have always wondered, aerial gunnery from a door gunner, a nose gunner, or whatever gun position. How do you keep from shooting your own aircraft when you're swinging the gun, or your wingman or you guys fly in this battle box? I mean, there's got to be bullets flying. How do you keep from shooting each other?
That's what they taught us at crew training. He said,
Okay.
You got to be
Okay.
be careful. Always a bunch of trigger happy gunners, and they said you got to be careful because you can shoot your own plane down. No, I couldn't because I was in nose gun, but
Right.
could shoot the wings off their own plane.
Right. I mean, if you got excited and were tracking a target and didn't let off the trigger, you could go right through, your wing,
That's exactly right. So
right through engine number 2.
they cautioned us all the time.
Oh shit.
So,
Okay. All right. I'm sorry to interrupt, sir. And
okay,
I am hanging on every word right now. So I'm going to shut up and let you go.
yeah. So where was? Oh yeah. Well, we went. So we went to Casper, Wyoming. That's where we had our crew training, and we were there about 3 months. And then that's where we learned how to fly. Co-pilot learned how to fly. Of course, we learned how to shoot at moving targets, and we're moving, the target's moving. How to shoot at those folks, and of course we do a lot of ground scraping.
Okay.
Which is most fun for a kid. It was fun.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, this is no, you have to remember, I was just 18 years old. This is an adventure for me.
Yeah. Big adventure until you realize when you met those guys in Chicago and they got real, right?
I drove home. Wait a minute. This is gonna be fun. Games anymore.
Yeah. Wait. Well, what? I think I have high blood pressure.
So they didn't tell you when you shipped out of Newport News what your destination was, but you woke up, saw the Rock of Gibraltar, so you knew you were in the Med and you were going to Italy or Africa, right?
Yes, that's right. So when we
Okay.
end up on the far side of the boot, Italy boot, it was on the Adriatic Sea, is the Adriatic Sea on that side, and that's where we disembarked in Bari, Italy, and then
Very Italy.
our truck up north to Cernola, where the San Giovanni, that picture right there. That's what
Look at
Whoops. There it comes up. Yeah.
So that was that was where you were based out of right there, that picture.
based out
Ariel.
interesting that these are runways. There's 2 runways, top corner. There's 2 runways, 2 parallel runways.
Yep.
Right.
I can.
All these places below that is where they're around the pond or lake or whatever it was. That's where the planes were all sitting.
All the hard stands were around that pond or lake.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the headquarters to the group headquarters was right that picture right that little right in that area. And anyway, so when they got us up there, they weren't really quite ready for us because we were a replacement crew. The group had been up there since February, and we got there in October. So we were a replacement crew, and so they weren't quite ready for us. But they said, "Well, we'll get you a place to stay." So we lived in tents, pyramid tents, and with dirt floors, and they didn't have any beds for us or cots. So but the officers got cots, Army cots, but they didn't have anything for us. But they rigged up some kind of a little bench type thing that we could sit on or sleep on.
Nice.
Get this, they give us one wool blanket. That was our mattress.
Oh, that's nice.
on a
How thoughtful.
wooden floor. It was actually it's off the ground.
And now I don't think they'll let the Air Force crews stay in BOQs on Marine bases because it's substandard. They make them stay out in the Marriott.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, times have changed, Rosie.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, anyway, after about 2 weeks, we got acquainted, and they kind of took us around, showed us where everything was. They had a small hospital, just kind of a clinic more or less, and they had a very nice chapel, religious chapel, and then there was 4 groups. There's 736, 7, 8, and 9, I guess. That was the group had 4 squadrons, or 4 squadrons. And we were in the 738 squadron.
And did
That's
this may be silly? I don't know. Did you have any kind of a squadron mascot or anything like ours was? Oh, you're holding it up. Let me hide the banner there. So
There it is.
there you go. There's the patch straight in front of you. Yes, sir.
and of course we had this was used in the 15th Air Force. So that was a pack.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And then, of course, this is the Air Force, all Air Force personnel.
Right.
On the shoulder patch.
Okay. So, and that was Army Air Corps actually. In those
Army
days.
Air Corps. That's what
Okay.
Air Corps.
Yeah.
That was
And
before-
and were those patches sewn onto your flight jacket or?
well, we sewed our own plots on yes.
Okay.
And we of course we had stripes. We were sergeants. We were when we went in the Army, we were PFs, privates. And
Okay.
the weapon. And then we got overseas. We were, and the enlisted men came up to be buck sergeants, which was 3 stripers.
Okay.
And then after we'd started to fly, it's kind of interesting little side note. As we started to fly, they made us staff sergeants, which is a 4 striper, 3 stripes.
Okay.
And
And
the
a
reason
rocker.
they did that is because the German army, if you were shot down and you were a buck sergeant, which is 3 stripers, you were a nobody. But if you had 4 stripes, you were somebody. And they treated you much better if you.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
So that's why we end up, and during that time, all of our officers were flight officers. They were not second lieutenants. And then we said, well, what's the goals with that? They're supposed to be when you graduated from, Army,
Right.
you're supposed to be. Well, the story was that if you weren't top notch, you had to be a flight officer for a while.
Okay.
So anyway, that was we kind of laughed about us enlisted men. We kind of laughed about that. What kind of jokers we got for officers.
Right.
But anyway, that was a sideline. They were great officers. We had a great crew. And I of course I say that because we had a good pilot. He knew how to manage people. That's
Holy cow. Is that your crew?
a crew right there.
So for those listening, I have a photo up on there that you can see. If you go to patreon.com and support us, you will get the link to this show, and you can see these photos that I'm putting up. I'm going to
Rosie,
put you
are
on the spot. Do you remember many or any or all of those names, sir?
What's that?
How many of those names do you remember this many years later? Do you remember all of them, or?
I'll never forget them. They're all.
God bless you.
This is like brothers. I'll tell you, they were.
Yeah.
Rosie, is that you are you the tallest one in the back row?
I'm on the top back on the. Yeah.
Are you the tallest member in the back row? Is that you?
No, that's not me. No. I was a shorty.
All right. Which one are you?
It's this one right there. Okay.
Second one from the left in the picture?
First one on the back row, the first one on the left, the back row.
First one on the left. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now I got it. Yep. I see you.
Yeah.
Totally. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and of course the officers are
Beautiful.
the one on the first one on the left, the officers, that was the pilot. It was Jim Nixon. And he was a Jim of a guy. There's no doubt about that. So
Okay. I have to ask, which one was the top turret gunner?
that was the what we call that was the 1, 2, 3, 4 next to the back, next to the last. It's a short guy. Yeah,
Okay.
He was
And-
the They were a flight. That was a flight engineer.
Carpy.
Flight engineer had the top turret too, right?
They had so.
Yeah.
So he had that. He had a kind of help the pilot.
Well, and the reason I ask, and I'm putting up a photo now, I got a ride about 15 years ago in a B-24, and I'm showing the photo from the outside of the top turret. My son at the time was about 12 years old.
Yeah.
And as a 12-year-old boy, he could squeeze his way into that turret, but he was claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And so grown men getting into that thing.
Yeah, they're all very tight. Well, of course, the ball turret was the worst.
Sure.
You have to be crazy to get in that place, because you in the ball turret, you're in the fetal position and down there by yourself, no way to get out. It's I guess you can get out, you can open the hatch and fall out. I guess
It's not for the meek.
Yeah.
No, nothing about that airplane was for the meek. In fact, I recall being briefed when we took it up flying was 3 points of contact. Whenever you're walking, there's a catwalk
that's right.
between the front and the tail section. And he said, if you're going to go back and forth during flight, 3 points of contact at all times, because if we hit turbulence and you fall off, those bomb bay doors are about as thick as aluminum foil, and you're going for a flight solo.
Right.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Absolutely terrifying that.
The sideline when we took off plane, the pilot and co-pilot, they had seats and seat belts. The rest of them did not have seat belts or anything like that. You just sit around wherever you could find a place.
Can you imagine that?
What I used to do is sit on that catwalk while it was taking off and landings.
Like straddle the catwalk?
No, you get that just to sit on it and then hang on to the sides of the head.
Oh shit!
There were some bars here. I don't know if I've got a picture of that or not. I'll look for that in there. But
hey, Rosie, one of our squadron mates here, Chase, asked if you had a choice of which gunner position, or was it just luck of draw? How did they assign what gunner to what?
At Lincoln, when we set up the crew, the pilot come back, he says, we had three aerial gunners, actually 3 pure aerial gunners on the team.
Okay.
And so everybody else had a position, so they asked us where you wanted to be, and the tail gunner, he's a wise guy, he's from Philadelphia, much smarter than me. He says, I'm going to be the tail gunner. And so that means that one of them had to be the ball turret gunner. And so, fortunately,
like, hell no.
the guy, he was probably 6 inches shorter than I was, and so he said, "I guess I better take the ball turret." So I ended up with the nose turret.
Okay.
I'd never been in a nose turret. I didn't know anything about it at all. This is the shot in the dark, but it turned out good for me. It was a great place. I liked it. I thought I had the best gunner position in the whole crew. You could see everything that's going on.
Well, so that
more than you wanted to see sometimes. But
was the nose gun and the bomb sight pretty close together?
Well, yeah, the bomb sight was right behind the nose turret.
It was behind the nose. Okay.
The B-24 did not have a nose turret, but they found out that somewhere along the line, they said, you don't have enough firepower up there, because the bombardier he had one machine gun up there, and he had to do both of those things. So somewhere along the line, they said, we need a turret. So they put a turret up with 2 machine guns. And so that's where I was positioned. I was in. This bombardier is just right behind me.
Were all the guns on the B-24 50 caliber?
50 caliber, yeah, they're all 50 caliber.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
had two 50 calibers, and the waist gunners had one on either side. They were so we had 10 guns, 10 machine.
Wow. Okay, just because the Marine in me is just kicked in here. We were always cleaning weapons after we fired them. Did you guys, the gunners, have to clean the weapons, or were maintenance guys clean those weapons after?
We had to take care of our own machine guns.
Oh shit!
They would put the ammunition in the ammunition boxes, but we had to test fire guns every time we went out, and so that means you had to come back and clean the guns. And so that usually took us, well, with 2 machine guns, it probably took us 2 or 3 hours at least every time.
Oh
we come.
yeah.
So
Was that so? After every mission, after you debriefed and things like that, you guys would have to go out and clean the guns.
cleaning the guns. That's right. That's correct.
Okay.
So
All right.
All
anyhow,
right,
we used to gripe about that all
so
the time. That's, you know,
So
'cause
so we left off right where you had been you'd been there for a couple weeks and they finally got you some places to stay and some accoutrements and then you hadn't started flying missions yet before we
That's
got
right.
you sidetracked.
So they had that. So anyway, the pilot had to fly. He flew 3 missions without us because they didn't want to put a green pilot out there, you know, the first shot.
So was he sitting in the right seat with an experienced?
Yeah, he was sitting there. He was in the right seat.
Okay.
He was the pilot was an experienced pilot flew with him. Usually sometimes it was a group commander or somebody that didn't have a crew that had on the flight take a mission or something like that. So anyway, he flew missions by himself, and then we all flew together after that. So
Okay, I'm going to ask a silly question here. I probably should know this before I ask it, but I'm a knuckle dragon, mouth breather, crayon eater. When you guys got to the theater and were flying missions, was it daytime bombing or nighttime bombing?
all daytime bomb. That's what
Okay.
we all did.
Okay.
Now
Holy shit.
that's just the way the 15th Air Force flew. Daytime bombing. They sent reconnaissance planes out and stuff like that. Fighter planes, using P-38s. They would go out and check for targets, more or less. So we all flew in the daytime, except towards about a month or 2 before the end of the war, they decided that if we could harass the general public by flying a plane out there at night, we'd bomb them in the daytime and fly around crazy at night, that they never got any sleep.
Right. That
And
makes sense.
that was the plan. And so, good old Jim Nixon, he's such a good pilot, had a good crew. We were a hotshot crew. And I wasn't part of it, but I was part of the crew. But
Come on.
anyway, so they said, we want you to fly at night, our crew to fly at night.
Just for harassment purposes, right?
Just harassment purposes, yeah.
Yeah.
So we flew 3 or 4 missions. We had nighttime goggles and all that good stuff. And we flew around about 3 or 4 training missions, and then they finally said, well, it's getting close to the end of the war anyway. They said, forget that. Thank goodness, because we didn't have any runway lights,
Oh,
speak of.
shit.
There's nothing, So up there at night, you didn't even find a runway. They'd have a few lights out there just enough to get a pilot, but you had to have a smart pilot. That's all I gotta say. So we did that. It's kind of interesting. We were, like I say, I always say that we were a good crew. We were one of the better crews. So I'm not bragging, but we were. And that is because we had a good pilot. That made all the difference in the world, what kind of pilots you had. Because there's good pilots and not so good pilots. And we had an excellent pilot. But anyway, every time they would do something different, they'd say, well, let's get the Jim Nixon's crew to do that. So one time they said, well, we want to have an interest of Army. We're going to have an infantry officer fly with us on a mission. So what they do? They pick Jim Nixon's crew to take this infantry guy up on the thing. Another time they said, well, it'd be a good idea to listen to what the Germans are doing, or listen to what's the chatter the Germans. So they said, well, to do that, we need somebody speak German, and we'll set it up so we can listen to see what they're doing. So what they do? They got Jim Nixon's crew to take care of this guy.
of course.
You mean fly him around and let him listen to radio traffic or something?
And
Are you shitting me?
Then we had photographers, and they all wanted to fly with Jim Nixon's crew. They take pictures, of the bomb, see if we hit the target and all that good stuff. We always had, we're supposed to have a 10-man crew. We always fly at least 11, maybe 12 people on the plane.
Oh my gosh.
And I always said, Yeah, that was fun, but it was because of Jim Nixon. Yeah, he was just he's a great guy. You couldn't believe it. Yeah.
That's
I'll
crazy.
And
pick you up on-
I was like I say, punk kid from the farm, 18 years old. And he kind of took a real liking to me. And I think he just kind of made almost like a father image to me because I was so young. And I wasn't battle scarred from living in the city. So anyway, I admired that guy to this day. I still admire him.
That's outstanding.
Yeah. It's kind of sidelight. His daughter lives in Howard, Colorado.
Okay.
And
Oh,
he used to come out and see her, and first thing he'd do, he'd call me up and say, "Come on, we got to go out to lunch, or we got to go down and visit my daughter."
oh, that's great.
Nice.
I guess that's one reason he paid a lot of attention to me as a kid. I guess so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And not to bring up a sad note, but in the pre-show chat, you told me you're the last remaining of this crew.
so we used to get there was 10 of us, of course, and we had 10 wives, and we used to get together after the war quite frequently. And I'm the only one left. So they've all passed away. I'm the only one left.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm grateful you're here, and super grateful you're sharing this with us.
I am too.
Yeah.
Such an honor. Very, very humble. I'm very humbled to hear your stories firsthand. Thank you.
It is. As am I. I didn't pre-brief us, but I want to do the. We want to take about a 2-minute break here and tell you guys about some other history, and then we'll come back and get into more of your flight missions. So we'll be back in 2 minutes and 1 second. Folks, if you'll indulge me for just a moment, I'd like to take some time to tell you about something I believe you'll be interested in. Now, you're listening to this show because you are hearing firsthand from the people who experienced them, these historical events in aviation. And that's a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, in our limited lifespan, we're not able to hear firsthand what happened to shape the world in which we live. Well, I've got the next best thing. It's an exceptionally well-researched podcast featuring compelling and rich storytelling called Warlords of History, hosted by Mark Pimenta. In each episode and series, he takes you through epic historical journeys, following the fascinating lifetimes of ancient and medieval military leaders who were titans during their respective eras, shaking the very grounds in which they lived, fought, and died. For example, he tells about people like Alexander the Great's father, Philip II, who laid the foundation for the rise of Macedon and Scipio Africanus. He saved the Roman Republic from near ruin during the Second Punic War. While going much deeper than simply retelling a chronology, he explores how the social and political forces were shifting under the feet of these prolific figures, and the defining events that helped to shape their personalities and understanding of the world around them, and how these forces and events came crashing together in a violent fashion to trigger their motivations for taking on the mantle of war, sparking audacious military campaigns, monumental battles. Empires were created and destroyed, among other achievements. You'll learn about what these warriors did and why and how they did it, and the actions that enabled them to carve their names into the annals of history. Ready to hear more? Join with Mark and dive into each of their lifetimes, their worlds, in the Warlords of History podcast, available wherever you get your favorite podcast. And don't forget to check out the show's website for more, warlordsofhistory.com. So that again, I didn't pre-brief that we wanted to share that podcast, and he's kind enough to share ours with other folks as well. But we're thrilled to be able to have you on and share some real American history, and it's a thrill. The other question that comes in from Styx is: did your aircraft have a name, and did you fly the same aircraft all the time?
okay, our plane on that. I got a model of it here.
Okay.
We flew. I'd say 2/3 of our mission was the same airplane. It's called Buzz Job. All the planes had names those days, and they all had names. And our plane that we had was Buzz Job, and it was an old beat up plane, so to speak. I think it flew about 119 missions.
Wow.
So it was never shot down. And it was a great plane. We liked it because it was an old plane, but man, it was reliable and it was lucky, obviously. So And towards the end of the war, the ground crew got a new airplane, and we liked the ground crew so much. We said they got a brand new plane, so we said, well, I guess we'll fly a different plane because we wanted to follow the ground crew around because we had an excellent two guys that took care of the plane for us.
Yeah, right.
And they were dedicated. They loved the plane lots more than they loved us. But anyways,
they let you guys take their machine, to go on missions.
Then you come back and they patch it up for us.
Oh gosh! And I'll put this in the show notes. But Sticks put up it's a web link. It's b24bestweb.com/buzzjob-v1-2.htm. So that's a link to your airplane, sir. So I'll put that in the show notes. There.
Do you know, repeat? Is that pictures? Is it the bureau number history? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm going to try and try and go
Sticks,
there and
Sticks,
describe
put
that
it in
here.
the text here so we can tell our listeners.
But yeah,
If you know, my friend, if you know.
yeah.
Okay.
It was a good plane. We had, and of course, the plane, like you probably can't see, but each group had the tail markings on the rudders.
Sure.
So that you could identify if you were up, because you had to be a little bit careful. We never had any trouble, but you had to be careful because the Germans, they had a few B-24s of their own that they'd captured.
Are you shitting me? So they'd be sneaky flying around?
Careful, yeah. So you had to be careful. So you had to be able to area any stray planes showing up.
So can you just walk us through what an average mission day look like for you, like from
great
start
question,
of the alert when you got alerted until you
from
got
Reveille to Taps?
Yeah,
I could do that for you.
Sure.
Of course we always had reconnaissance police looking for targets. We talk for oil refineries and railroad yards and stuff like that. And so they were out the day before, and then they'd come back, and then the powers that be would say, "Okay, we're going to fly a mission to this place." And so the night before the mission, they'd notify our pilot that you're flying tomorrow. And saying that's all, they said, "You're flying tomorrow." That's all I told him. So he'd come and tell us that. Get ready, we're going to fly tomorrow, so you better be up about 5 o'clock in the morning. And so anyway, that's when the knot came back in a hurry in your stomach.
Yeah.
And I myself, I didn't sleep very well that night at all. I was toss and turn all night long. Anyhow, and then so our pilot would come tell us we're flying. So anyway, the next morning we had to get up and we had to go to chow first. And nobody ate very much because we were quite upset about the whole thing. And so then the next thing you had to go to the latrine because there was no facilities on the airplane. So we were going to be flying for about 8 hours, so you had to take care of those problems early on.
I would not have done very well. I'm telling you that right now.
We didn't have
little tight sphincter there. It's like, no, I gotta go.
They had relief tubes, but
relief tubes. Okay,
it was 50 degrees below zero.
I know you don't want to get your equipment out in that kind of weather.
No.
Holy shit! Talk
about frostbite.
That's not this is not fun to talk about. But holy shit, this was real. I mean, these are natural physiological things, and I think about this all the time. I'm like, I would have had to shit my pants. I mean, because I shit 3 times a day before noon every day, and this would not gone well for me.
You could handle number 1, but number 2, you're in your pants. That's it. You got pretty close to that sometimes because it's scary that bad. So.
Oh my gosh, that's just horrible.
Anyway,
I'm sorry to
back to the
derail
day,
you, Rosie. Okay.
about 7 o'clock in the morning, the officers go to briefing in the headquarters building. All the officers, 4 officers, went to a briefing, and that's where they talked about where they were going to go. How many enemy aircraft are you going to run into? Are you going to be any enemy fighters? and all the good stuff that, you know, but the checkpoints were the turning points and where the elevations they're going to be flying and all that good stuff. So all the officers were doing that.
Yeah.
And then the enlisted men, we go to the supply to get our parachutes for everybody. And that's mainly what we got. I think because we always had our own oxygen mask, our own parachute harness, and our own May Wests. And so we had most of our stuff all, but it was stored in a kind of a storage area. So we
Okay.
check that out.
Okay.
And was that storage area by the aircraft or by your rack in your tent?
Their headquarters of the building.
Okay.
All this was pretty tight. We probably weren't less than a half a mile from where the plane was to where we lived. So it was pretty compact.
Okay. Okay.
So anyway, there's an interesting sidelight. I always thought this is great. 50 years later, some of the guys went over to the old San Giovanni Air Base, and they couldn't find it. So finally, they looked around, and finally they saw a gentleman out there, and he says, "Did he know anything about an air base in this area?" And he said, "Yes, there was." He said, "Right up the road here." So they found the headquarters building, which is an old farm building originally, and it had a basement in it. And in the basement, that was the briefing room for the officers, and it had stools, just little iron stools. It must have been, we had probably 50 or 60 of those stools, all row after row. And then up on the head, they had a bulletin board or board with a canvas over it, and that's where they pulled that back and said, "This is where you're going today, guys." So that's where you find out where he's going.
Right.
So anyway, that was the briefing room. That's when they got all the information. And so anyway, they come there 50 years later. They found this building, and they went into the briefing room, and it looked exactly the same as it was when they left 50 years ago.
No way. Wow. It was untouched.
The stools are still there. The bulletin board was there with the drape over it. It's exactly. They just moved out, and nobody ever.
It's like the war's over. They left everything there. Nobody
Frozen
ever
in time.
That is amazing.
It's kind of crazy. That doesn't make sense, but I don't know.
Was the airport turned into, because obviously things had grown up over 50 years. Was it like vineyards or something?
It was all gone, but I think it's just more or less farmland.
Oh, be darned.
We had the runways had these, I don't know what you call them, but steel mats.
AM2, aluminum matting. That was
But the rest of it was just gravel, cadmium gravel. So they were still there apparently. Some of it was still there, but
that is awesome.
They're all gone. So everything was going to go.
So 7 a.m. you'd go get your briefing.
Oh yeah,
get your gear.
Officers get the briefing. The E's would go get the parachutes, and then when would you?
Yeah, they'd come by with a truck and pick us up at the supply room, and then we'd go out the plane. Of course, officers were still doing briefing, and so we'd get things kind of set up and get ready to start the engines and stuff like that before the pilot got there. And so when we got there, then they'd tell us where he's gone, what target was going to be, and then of course it'd be a groan or happy, whatever. If it was a tough target, we didn't too happy about that. But we was looking for. We had what we called if you had a mission where had about 50 anti-aircraft guns, we'd say incidentally we called that flak. I don't know what that flak means, to tell you the truth. There was so many Germans, that's a German name, I think, for anti-aircraft.
So you say 50's okay. That sounds horrible to me.
50 gun, but we go to Munich or Vienna or Linz, they'd have 300 guns.
Oh shit!
And what that reason that was is because the Russians were pushing back and Germans were retreating, and they're dragging all their anti-aircraft guns with them. So we had to put up with a lot of anti-aircraft fire. Yeah.
Was that your biggest worry, AAA, or was it fighters?
No, we never. I was over there. All my missions, I never shot once at a fighter.
So they must have been getting low on fighters at that point.
Just to have anybody left, And of course, when we were flying, we had, we'd fly with a formation of 28 bombers, 10 guns.
my next question.
280 guns.
That's a lot of lead going outbound, right?
Yeah. So they didn't. We'd see them occasionally. They would lurk out there, and if they got a cripple bomber by itself,
Oh yeah.
you have problems.
Yeah. The weakest water buffalo is the one that's going to get attacked by the lion, right?
Right. Yeah. So incident, one of the sidelights. So I think in August we started flying in November, but I think it was August or September. They had a squadron that lost 10 planes.
Oh shit. That's a lot.
From fighter pilots, because they were getting all the crews were getting a little bit lax about what they were doing, and these guys just zoomed in and just riddled the whole squad.
So they lost 10 airplanes to fighters.
Uh-huh.
Holy shit, that's horrible.
Yeah, it's bad. But normally we didn't lose that many planes. We'd lose a plane or two, maybe one plane a time every time we went up, or maybe two, but not that many. So, and as the war went on and it got less and less, but you had more problems with engine problems or running out of fuel and things like that. And then you did enemy fighters. Of course, we had a lot of anti-aircraft too. But enemy fighters.
So let's get back to the day timeline. So the E's are at the airplane, getting it ready. The officers show up after their briefing.
So then it's time to get dressed, get ready for it. So you had to take all your clothes off down to your long underwear. If you had long underwear, so it's in the wintertime, it's quite cold. So so we take it on, and we didn't mind, bare rear, let it hang it out. Who cares,
Yeah.
So we dressed, but we had electric suits. Electric foot socks called, and electric gloves.
These are all battery.
These are electric from you plug into the plane. Actually.
Oh no way!
Yeah.
Oh, that's
high tech.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, and then we had our flying suits. So then we had coveralls we put on top of that. That was just our everyday wear. And then you put your flight suits on, which were down jackets and down pants, and lined boots, and big heavy gloves, heavy gloves. And you had electric gloves also, So
Okay.
you were in pretty good shape. And of course we had to get our oxygen mask and our flak helmets, our flak suits. We had those with us. So we had to bring all the stuff out with us. So we had just a conglomerate of things.
It's wonder the airplane could take any bombs, weighing all that down with just the gear you guys said you had to wear.
Right. I mean, that sounds like
guys in one of those places where some of us are in our guard base. It was quite a while to So we can see that or not, but anyway.
Oh yeah,
I can put that up.
So you guys in your battle dress, ready to go.
We had to have May West too, so we have and that's the other thing I was going to tell you. That they give us when we went overseas. It's kind of an interesting story. We all had to check out a 45 Colt pistol. All right. And we carried pistols as shoulder holsters when we were flying. And
that's your air crew weapon. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd, but when they didn't give us the guns until we were just ready to get on the boat to go overseas. I guess we always said that, they was afraid we'd shoot ourselves or somebody else. We were checked out for them, but
they won't let you have them until you're on the boat. That's funny.
Machine gunners is what we were.
Yeah. 50 caliber machine gunners, but we're not going to give you your 45 pistols until you're out.
We showed this is a bullet right here. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh, let me hide this.
Get in there. Hold on. Wait, stick that up there
Hold
again,
that up
Rosie.
again, please, sir.
Yeah, that's a big.
That was 50 caliber machine gun bullet.
Yeah, that's a big hunk of lead right there.
Yeah, they were a big boy. I tell you, we do ground strafing practice. I tell you, man, those things, they'd shoot up everything. I tell you, they just obliterate.
Yeah, it's something. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anyway, so then we had to get ready to get our garb on, and that was officers would come out and we'd kid them. I said, well, we're ready to go, and you guys aren't dressed yet. And so they finally get everything dressed. And so we get in the plane, and then to start the engines, you had to have that is airplane, the number 3 engine over here.
Mm-hmm.
It had a generator in it. But you had to have it. We had just like we call it a putt-putt, but it was just a little, that's like a washing machine engine or ancient.
Yeah. So I have a picture up right now, and it's showing there's a number 3, but that's actually the number 4 engine that the number 3 is on. For those that are looking at this, the number 3 is the inboard engine on the right wing.
The inboard. It's not there. That's where that's when you start that engine with a little putt-putt, but once it started, it had a generator and it could or starter, so you could start the 1, 2, and 4 engines from the number 3 engine. Why that was that way, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, so we had to start the engines, and then of course we had to check out, the pilot and co-pilot check out all whatever they did, check out, and with the flight engineer, the 3 of them would go through the checklist, and then after that it's probably about getting close to 8 o'clock in the morning, and they said it was time to get ready to take off, and so the signal would be, and then each group or each squadron, which is 7 planes, would taxi out, one after the other, and we take off about a minute apart. Each plane was about a minute apart. But what was kind of interesting, I always thought this kid is interesting anyway, that they pull up, we had 12 500-pound bombs. That's what we carried. And so we go up to the end of the runway, and the run was not too long. So the pilots would ram up the engines wide open and with the brakes on, and then you release the brakes and away you go. And sometimes you didn't get off the ground. We lost several planes that way.
Oh,
Get off the ground. So, but not too often. I think it's happened 3 or 4 times while I was there. But that was the problem. It wasn't enemy fighters. It was crazy other things went on. So
sure.
Anyway.
Sure. And were you at your station from takeoff to landing, or were you?
We have none of us are at our stations except the pilot and co-pilot.
Okay.
Yeah, and the rest of us are wandering around someplace, sitting there. Like I say, I sit back in the bomb bays with the bombs.
Yeah. Okay.
Not strapped in, not just hanging on to something, right?
Yes, hanging on.
Is that amazing?
And you couldn't you had the guys at the tail section. There was 3, 4 guys back there. They had to be kind of pushed up against the bulkhead,
Right,
away from the tail. You couldn't have the tail in. So in the same way with I think the bombardier and the navigator there in the nose part, and they could stay where they were, but the rest of us are someplace else.
Rosie, I'm trying to keep track of the timeline here, just on an average day. So it sounds like you got up at 5, and by the time you got, maybe is this like 8 or 7 or 8, or no, probably 8 or 9 by the time?
About 8 o'clock is when you're ready to take off. That's
when you're rolling. Okay, 8 o'clock. Holy shit. Okay.
So wow. So the Marine Corps saying holds true. We do more waiting around before 9 a.m. than most people do all day.
Yeah, right.
You were already moving by 8.
Oh yeah, they were doing that.
And of course, like I say, we flew in formations of 28 planes. We had
Wow.
Each group had each squadron had 7 planes, and so we had 4 squadrons in our group. So they usually go out. Well, trying to rendezvous 28 planes.
Would you guys circle over the base to get joined up and then go, or would you join up en route?
They had a place en route someplace, in some small town or something.
Yeah, orbit over a small town, join up there.
Rendezvous point, yeah. And then usually that was before we got over the water. We had to fly to the Adriatic Sea. And so we were in formation by that time.
Okay.
That's when things got kind of hairy sometimes, because it was cloudy. You couldn't see the ground, so you couldn't find your rendezvous point. You couldn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, and things would get kind of testy because you took a long time to get into formation, and you were using fuel. So we just had very enough fuel to get up there and back anyway. So it got kind of nasty 2 times, cussing each other out and so forth. But anyway, then we took off the site, and we flew over the Adriatic, and of course we're trying to gain altitude because we flew most of the time we flew, we were probably 25,000 feet high. So we had been trying to drive a big old lumbering bomber up with a fully loaded gasoline and bombs. It's hard to do. So it took quite a long time. But once we got 10,000 feet, then it's time to put on oxygen. And that's when we went to our positions when we got to be 10,000 feet, because that was required to put on oxygen mask at that time.
Okay.
So that probably took, I don't know, probably an hour. But before that, we had test fire machine guns. We always had test fire machine guns. So this formation kind of spread out, and then we'd try to not hit anybody. And,
So aim towards blue, and squeeze the trigger. Oh my gosh.
but
Hey,
our poor ball turret gunner, he was a problem. Of course, we always said, "No, if you want to be a ball turret, you got to be kind of crazy anyway."
well, yeah.
He was having trouble with these guns all the time. And our pilot, old Jim Nixon, he said, "Crying out loud, can't you guys help that guy?" Anyway, but he was okay. But he was just a problem.
Hey, Rosie,
Can't
you
see
guys,
it on the photos that I have. It's down low, and a mouse could squeeze into it, but that's about it.
Yeah, well, that's right. There's very tiny, and of course, the way that ball turret worked, the ball turret was up, and then when you got up in the sky, they had a hydraulic hoist to lower the ball turret,
Yeah, right.
drag on the ground if it was normally sitting. If it's just sitting, And so anyway, but
you guys carried 12 500-pound bombs. How many rounds of 50 cal would you carry?
I knew you was going to ask that because I was thinking about myself, and I don't know.
Well, okay, so let me ask
I
it
would say we probably had at least 200 or 300 rounds for each gun.
per gun.
Yeah.
And so I need you to help me dispel a wives' tale. So were the 50 caliber belted rounds? Do you know how long they were? I know they were probably in a box. You carried them out to the airport.
They were in the boxes, so we didn't see that.
Do you know what it measured out if you pulled that belted ammunition out?
No, I sure don't, because I don't think I ever saw it, to tell you the truth.
Say the rumor is it was 9 yards long, 27 feet. And the reason I say that is because
There you go.
because guys would come back and they'd say, how'd it go? And we say, and the saying was, I gave him the whole 9 yards.
Oh, yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, that's where that came from. Yeah, but
Okay.
I don't.
All right, I was hoping you could either confirm or deny that for me.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so about 200 rounds a gun. That's a lot, and that's a lot of weight right there. That's a lot of weight in.
Yeah, and those guns probably weighed, I'd say 60 or 70 pounds apiece. They were big guns.
Yeah. And then, but that also tells me you didn't actually load the ammo belts. They were loaded for you.
The belts were loaded, yeah, because I'm not what they'd be much more. They'd be quite heavy because it was.
Okay.
Anyway, when we got to 10,000 feet, we had to be in our positions, and in our turrets, and then we had to put on oxygen mask and connect up our intercoms because we had an intercom. We could talk to everybody on the plane. The pilot could talk to other planes, but the crew could not. We could just talk to within the plane. So we had to get that set up and get your oxygen mask on. We always had flak suits and flak helmets, but we didn't put them in the turret because they were too cumbersome. We just used those when we was going over the target. We'd put those on. So, and then we take off the target, and then when we got there's always when you went to the target, they told you what the elevation you were, or told the pilot what elevation you was going to be in, and then they had what they called you familiar with the PI? I don't know what that PI stands for, but that's the point where you turn and you're going to the target, and no matter what, you stay on that that
So
heading.
is the IP is the initial point,
Yes, yeah,
and then you would turn and head towards the target, and that was your run-in, your target
right.
run-in.
And they
Yeah,
used to say, well, if the flag got too heavy, we wouldn't go there. But that was not the case. Once you that IP turned, you were on line to the target, and no matter what, you went. You know,
right.
and
That's
so
crazy.
so the Germans knew that. So they'd always figure out where the IP was and
Yeah, but
shoot
because
shoot
Wait till
everything.
you're inbound. Yeah.
yeah, at some point in the bombing run, the pilot turned the airplane over to the bombardier. Right,
That's
he
right,
he
that's right.
coupled it up to the autopilot, and the bombardier actually flew it at that point.
It's what they call the Norden bomb sights, what it was. And that was a gyroscope. I guess it wasn't, well, I don't know how I understood it. But that was right. And they turned
It's
one
magic.
someplace before actually they got to the target. They turned over to the bombardier and they flew the plane. So, and then and of course, as soon as they we all dropped the bombs at the same time. So, in a sense, sometimes you didn't really need a bombardier, except because you had a head
Right.
guy who was going to drop the
Right.
bomb.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
anyway, no matter. We all dropped at the same time. All dropped them all 12 bombs at the same time. We didn't string them out or anything, just unloaded. And then, of course, as soon as you unloaded, then you wanted to rally away from the flak, because that's where the flak was the heaviest.
Oh, you bet.
The sky was bead black, I'll tell you. It's
Sky
Yeah.
was
And-
bead black.
very,
And-
very scary. It was really frightening. The whole mission was 8 hours, but it's that probably 30 seconds right over the target. That's when that was the scary part.
Right.
Really
And
scary.
now here's a stupid question, but I have to ask it, and I'll tell you why I ask it when I'm done. Could you hear the flak exploding from the B-24?
I was gonna
Probably
ask
not
that
over the
too.
engines.
Yes, you could.
You could.
Was
Hear
it
it.
was it loud?
You could hear it explode and see it explode, and you could sometimes hear the shrapnel hit the plane. So,
Oh shit!
so it was.
Yeah.
There's a show title there.
It was
Sometimes you could hear the shrapnel hit the plane.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So it was quite scary for an old farm boy, I'll tell you. For
Oh shit! Are you kidding me?
Quite
I'm
scary for
scared
everyone.
just
Sitting
listening
here-
to you talk
sitting here
about it.
75, 80 years later, I'm scared.
I'm just listening to you talk about it. The hair on my arms are standing up because I'm hearing like metal hitting the airplane. Every time there's a. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
was
And
it
when's
was it
coming through that
turbulent?
plexiglass?
Was it turbulent when the flak was going off around the
Yeah.
airplane?
It kind of wobble, because
Oh
where the bullets or where the explosions were.
Well, and the reason I asked is we've had several guys on who flew in various Gulf War scenarios, particularly the F-16 guys reported that it was surreal to them that they could see the flak and they could see it exploding, but they couldn't hear anything. But, they're in a pressurized cockpit with double hearing protection and a
Doing
nice helmet on
400
and-
knots too.
doing 400 knots and nice and comfortable. It was actually warm and or cool to their desire by a little rheostat.
So let's think about
None of this caveman stuff that
These
you were
guys
having
are
to go
flying
through.
unpressurized, with the
Yeah.
guns hanging out, open windows and doors, and let's see, minus I forgot
Minus 40,
50,
yeah.
minus
Yeah,
40 degrees.
40, 50 degrees below zero. Yeah.
Oh my god!
And you can't. The picture I'm showing right now, if you look behind the star on the fuselage, you see that's an open window. That's about a 3 or 4 foot by 3 or 4 foot
Yeah,
square
It was about 3 by 4 foot. Yeah, that's what the waist.
Giant hole
for the waist gunner. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a giant hole, and that's on both sides of the airplane. And God forbid, enough turbulence. I swear you're going out. I stood by that window for about 2 seconds, and I went, "Oh no,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
because
have a
you guys-
parachute on."
You guys didn't like tether yourself in or anything, right? You were completely loose moving around in there.
Oh,
right?
we had seat belts in the turrets, but the other guys,
Okay.
like the waist gunners, they just stood back there.
Oh shit. Okay. Oh.
So you're inbound to the target. Flak's going off all around you. You're hearing dink, 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 hoping that some of that crap isn't coming through your plexiglass window and or the thin aluminum siding.
Yeah. So then,
And how long was that run from the IP into the target?
oh, it seemed like forever.
A small eternity?
It was probably 3 or 4 minutes from LIP to the target. And soon, of course, as soon as we dropped the bombs, then they'd rally away.
Right.
There's going to be some other crews coming, some other bomber groups coming right behind us, or maybe above us or below us. But, so
Wow.
anyway, so when
Wow.
we rally out, and then of course we were still in one piece, which we turned out to be. By this could kind of relax a little bit, but you still, there's always a danger of a fighter. So we didn't get any, but there was some.
Well, you didn't want to let your guard down, especially after that squadron lost all those planes, right? For letting their guard down.
You had to be careful. So,
Oh, shit.
so anyway, what was interesting about the flak? I know to this day I can't figure it out. Those guys, those Germans, you'd be flying 24,000 feet. Couldn't see us. They couldn't see us from the ground. You can't see that far.
Yeah, right.
They'd shoot a shot, and the first shot would be right on you.
Was it radar guided? Was it
right? Something elevation wise, they were
Yeah.
there. They were there.
Wow.
I just can't understand. I never could. Dumb kid. I just couldn't figure that out.
Yeah.
And to this day, but they were very good about right elevations.
How about that?
They might track you, be ahead of you, back of you a little bit, or side to side, but they were right on the right elevations.
So you led off our interview with that story where a anti-aircraft round went off right in front of you, and you guys all thought, "Oh shit, this is it," because they got us dialed in.
They got us. We got us. The next shot's going to get us, but I can tell that story now. Yes,
Spoiler
right,
alert.
so it didn't-
Spoiler alert. It missed.
I am so glad it didn't get you, Rosie, because
the next shot was just about. The first shot was about. It's hard to guess how far, but it looked like it might have been 100 feet or 150 feet in front of us.
that's way too
The second
close.
shot was the same place. They were tracking us, but they didn't have the track right. They had the elevation right, but they didn't have a track. So it was about 150. And we had 5 or 6 shots that way.
Wow.
And they didn't hit us. I was said, well, boy, they missed a cog on their gun. We're dead. But we just lucky. We just very lucky, So.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's better to be lucky than
But,
good.
but it did end with a cracked turret cover. It was plexiglass. And it was pitted quite badly.
Yeah. Shrapnel cracked it and pitted it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
well, the guy, the flight engineer, he was in his turret, and a piece of shrapnel came through the turret and fell down on the floor on the flight deck by his feet. Piece of shrapnel, about 2 inches long,
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
inch square or something like that. Yeah. But it didn't hit him. but it spent. It got spent. Something like come through. So
Holy shit.
yeah, souvenir.
So in all how many missions did your crew fly?
Well, you had the supposed to fly 35. And then what they did, the powers that be, they'd look at losses, and they were always adjusting how many flights to take that you had to fly. When we were there, it was 35.
Oh my gosh, so in the beginning, I think what it was like 20 or 25.
20 or 25, I think, over in England. It was 25, yeah.
Oh shit.
And that's not, that's not very many, but to the guys flying them, it's quite a bit.
Okay. So when you came back from the mission, how many days off would you have before you flew again, or would you fly
Not every third day. We'd fly about we'd try to fly every third day, but we were over there during the winter. We flew from November to April. So the weather was lousy a lot of the time, kind of like it is here,
So would weather scrub your missions before you launched, or you'd get?
But you always had to go through the process. See, that's the problem.
Yeah,
That's what we used
yeah.
to say. You sweat it out and think, God, he's going to be killed the next day. And then they
It's
scratched the mission. So we took us a long time to fly the missions. We had, I think I flew 32 missions when the war was
holy
over.
cow.
But anyway.
So okay, obviously as a crew, you guys, your crew was pretty tight. You know, you ate together, you socialized together. I'm guessing that sort of thing.
Well, the officers, of course, the 4 officers, they had their own quarters and stuff. So we were kind of 2 groups. And, the enlisted men, we lived together, but officers, they lived in another place together.
So on your downtime, how did you keep from? Because there's a lot of stress, and you have to relieve stress. What did you guys? What was the average day that you were? What was downtime like for your crew?
Well, of course, usually the day after the mission, we had to go clean our guns. We did that after.
So that was several hours of.
That was
right.
Maybe that take a good part of the day, but then we had to, we had a shower, which you had to walk about a mile and a half to the shower. And so we didn't do that very often, but we did, just once a week.
Whether you needed it or not, huh?
Yeah, that's right. But it was kind of interesting in our group. I don't know what the other players that, but our officers, we used to play games together. We played touch football and basketball and stuff like that.
I figured.
I don't know whether the other crews did that or not, but our crew, the officers, they were set. They were above us. We were enlisted men; they were officers. So we treated them as officers, but we used to play games all the time, play football.
Well, it sounds like you guys had a tight crew.
Yeah, we had a very tight crew.
That's
And
awesome.
of course, as a matter of fact, we after the war, it was about 10 years after the war before we figured it out. But we decided we should have reunions. We used to have a reunion every 3 years with the crew and the wives, and we'd go.
Yeah.
So I communicated with him. My pilot, he used to travel, and he'd come to Denver, and every time he came to Denver, he'd call me up, and we'd go out and have dinner and whatever. So
that's just outstanding.
And a lot of officers didn't do that because often officers are officers, and his men are in a different category. But our officers were not that way at all. They were just what we call regular.
Well, it sounds
guys.
like they were much like as Fig points out, doing servant-based leadership.
Yeah, we knew our
And,
place. They were officers, and we were enlisted men. We understood that.
But they were sure to take care of you guys
Yeah,
as
that's
well. Not to hold that over you, but so we got a question from a listener. What was the part of that whole mission process from wake up from reveille to taps? When you first got there, what was the biggest surprise or the most something that I would say maybe you weren't prepared for, or that was the most unusual?
I think we did training missions. Also, we didn't fly. I mean, we flew quite a bit on training missions, and I didn't realize we do that. But I would say we probably, we flew actually on, like I said, I flew 32 missions. Pilot 645. We probably had 10 training missions. We'd fly around, or they'd send the P-51. That was the American fighter pilot. And they'd attack us, but they never get very close. No, and I don't blame them. A bunch of trigger happy gunners.
I don't want to get. Hey, hold on, we're good guys. Whoops.
Anyway, we do that. So then we do that. Then we might do some practice bomb runs someplace. But most of the time, we had a lot of time. We had a long time off. That's all.
Well, how was the chow?
The officers was not too bad because once in a while when we were flying night, we got the enlisted men got to eat with the officers, and they had better chow than we did. So
now we're talking.
Chow was lousy.
Yeah.
We had powdered eggs all the time. That's for breakfast, powdered eggs. And dry toast and some kind of Vienna sausage. The Vienna sausage was another one. That's, be on site
That's the.
every day of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was lousy. Tell it was lousy, but
Yeah.
bunch of guys, what the heck, we were all in the same boat together. So
Yeah.
just
Did you ever get shit on a shingle?
yeah, well, that's right. We had some of that too. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
but it's kind of interesting. We'd once in a while, probably once every month or something like that, they'd have fresh eggs.
Oh man, that must have been just
So-
awesome.
But the problem was, we knew we was going to have powdered eggs, so you didn't know when you was going to have fresh eggs. So we always have to have one of the guys have to get out of bed, go up.
Oh yeah, you could. Yeah, you had to be there every day just in case, right?
So one of those take turns going up and see what they had. If they had fresh eggs, well, we'd all pile out.
Oh, that's fantastic. I have two quick questions for you, and this is you don't have to go in great detail, but I'm very curious. So, on your missions, you said you shoot 2/3 of the missions in the old. I'm just gonna call it the battle axe. It was the buzz job, and did you ever have you had to shut one down or shut two down, or maybe got flack in one engine, or did you ever not make it back with all the engines running?
Well, very seldom. I would say half the time we had at least one engine, maybe possibly one engine out.
Half the time.
But
Okay, that's fair. I was expecting worse than that, but that's pretty good.
Well,
Oh my gosh. Okay. And my next question is you were there in Italy on Victory in Europe Day, right?
that's
Or were you flying that day? Tell me about that day for you.
Well, we were. The war, I think the war was over. That's when they announced the war was over, May the 8th, and we flew our last mission April the 25th. So it was several days. We pretty well knew that the war was.
Things were winding down. Things were winding down pretty quickly.
But it was kind of interesting when they announced it May the 8th. We had PXs so that you couldn't you can walk in and buy stuff, but they had PXs supplies. And of course, they opened all that, so they had beer running out their ears, and all sorts of good stuff. It was really, and we always used to kid the guys after the war that the people that had flown earlier and went home before the end of the war.
Yeah, they missed the party.
We were celebrating when the war was over, and they missed out on the celebration.
Yeah, they missed the party. Damn it.
Well, I have to ask, did you bring home an Italian bride?
No.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. The only woman that I can really remember seeing was they had a Red Cross lady. When
Okay.
I talk about missions. When we got home from the mission, first thing was you're very tired,
Right.
and so that's what you had to undress and redress, and so you went pilot and co-pilot and the flight engineer would go over the problems with the plane, we'd all look for holes in the plane. So because the ground crew had to patch all that stuff up, so that plane had to be ready to go 2 days later.
Did you have to go to a debrief, get an intel debrief?
Okay.
So we went. They always had to go to a debrief. And we went over and we talked to a debriefer, and what he was looking for was, did you see any enemy fighters? How much flak did you have? And it was cloudy and blah blah blah. And did you see the targets? Bombs hit the target, so forth. And everybody went through that debriefing. But first, when you got there, they gave everybody a shot of whiskey. That was this.
That's how you debrief a flight, brother.
That's like just to calm down, or was it a victory?
That's what it's for. It's because some of the guys, me included, and the only problem is I didn't drink, so I didn't drink it. But
so hey, was it one shot per guy, or could you give your shot to another guy so he could have two?
So maybe a candy bar or something like that. So,
Okay.
First, I gave it away, then I thought, wait a minute.
Okay,
But
but
listen for this.
Remember, we're talking about a 18, or you're probably 19 at that point, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got turned into 19 before we got back. Yeah.
19-year-old Rosie coming back from a combat mission, and he says, "No, I'm okay. I'm gonna take the candy bar." I mean, I totally get it.
But what's kind of interesting, our pilot, He'd drink, and he'd take that shot, but he would never drink. When we were training and everything, he would never drink.
I'll be darned.
He said,
Okay.
I've got 9 guys counting on me. I can't be carousing around. So anyway,
He sounds like the real deal.
yeah. So anyway,
Right.
so then they had debriefing, and then they had the Red Cross lady camp,
Okay.
and that was the only woman I ever saw on the base the whole time I was there. And she'd give us, we got donuts and coffee if we wanted, which I didn't drink coffee either. So,
Okay.
but I ate the donuts. And
There you go.
Did you ever when you were on downtime, did you ever leave the confines of the air base there?
I think probably 2 or 3 times. We went to town. We get a haircut. If we want to get a haircut, we go to town. We pay a nickel for a haircut in town.
What an outrage!
Did
What a
the
rip-off!
were the Italians good hosts for you
Well,
at that point?
But some of the big, like Foggia, which was a bigger town, quite a bit bigger town, and they said don't go there because they didn't like Americans at all. But Cerignola, which is about 30,000, very poor. They were more, they relied on Americans' dollars. In fact, so we used to go there once in a while, and so our ball turret gunner, he used to go there all the time to get drunk. But most of the guys,
Well, he was in the ball turret. He had a lot to deal with, right?
Yeah, there's some rights and privileges.
We have a listener that has a question, and actually, it's a question that I was going to ask anyway. It's a really good question, and I think I know the answer, but let's ask it, Rosie. When all hell was breaking loose, flak, everything happened on, which member of your crew was the calmest?
One of our waist gunners, we call him waist, he was the armament, non-com. He was the one that set the bombs and so forth. So, we had to set the fuses on the bombs
Right.
after it took off.
He had to pull the pins, right? Had to go
Okay.
through and pull the pins.
It had a safety pin in it, so to speak. So if we dropped the bomb during takeoff, it would not go off.
Right.
So
Yeah, couldn't arm without the pin.
we had
Okay.
safety. That was a safety. We call them safety pins, but that's not where. And
I thought you were going to say the pilot. So there you go. This guy had ice water in his veins.
but anyway, so that's when we had an armament, non-com, and then when after he took off, he'd take the safety pin out and stick a wire where the safety pin was. So when they dropped the bombs, the wire was held in place, and the bombs got so they immediately, as soon as they dropped, they were charged.
Yeah, fuse would arm, and that would be it.
Fuse
Yeah.
activated. Yeah. So anyway, this fellow, he was a Cherokee Indian, a full-blood Cherokee Indian. That guy had ice water in his veins. The flak would be flying all over around him, and he didn't even flinch. The other white waist gunner, he's cringing in the corner or something like that. But this guy, I guess it's because he was an Indian. I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
That's pretty awesome. So you're saying, he wasn't, he never cowered. He was just, he didn't, he wasn't, he was just stood there and
He just stood there and took it. Yeah, that's right.
no shit.
Like Stonewall.
I mean,
Well, that's,
I know that. Of course, I remember the back of the plane, but I remember the guys who were talking about it. That guy. He's not afraid of anything.
well, as our man Bago said, if you had to pick anyone to be calm, you want it the guy that he's pulling the fuse, he's arming the fuses on the bomb. You want him to be the calmest always.
You don't need a nervous Don Knotts type arming your bombs.
Oh, I dropped the pin.
I used to help him do that, though, but I wasn't that calm. But he was in charge.
I repeat. I'm kind of out of questions, and I feel like we've been talking for 10 minutes. I don't want it to stop, and I know we've been talking for a long time, Rosie. Oh my gosh, it's been such a it's an honor. It's a pleasure. I feel like I'm in the awe of. We are in.
We are in awe. Period.
We're in awe. We're in rare waters here with you.
Yeah. Well,
honestly.
I got a couple more questions then, I guess. Tell us about getting home in the reunion, and did you have a girl back home? You were only 18, so but that
Well, I
was
had a part-time girlfriend, but not really. It was kind of
okay.
interesting. All the guys did have girlfriends. Three of the guys were married.
Okay.
We had kids, but
Oh,
and all of them had girlfriends. Steady girlfriends. I had on and off part-time. She used to write a letter to me once in a while, but anyway, she
okay.
gave to me while I was overseas, so I didn't have a girlfriend.
Dear Rosie.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's kind of interesting. All those guys that had girlfriends, they all got married shortly after they got back from the war. And of course, I didn't have a girlfriend, so I didn't get married. So
Okay.
at that time, anyway. So
Well, got back to your family though, and is I think it was Bago. Someone pointed out earlier, going, can't imagine saying goodbye to my 18-year-old son going off to be a nose gunner in
Well,
the
it was
European
pretty-
Oh my
theater.
gosh, I can't even imagine that.
it's pretty difficult for my parents, especially my mother. It's just because I was her baby. I was her baby.
Sure.
Son. I was her
Yeah.
youngest. Yeah. And
Oh, Rosie, I can't even imagine.
so anyway, so it was. But my mother used to write to me almost every day. She's technically. We had, I don't know, they still have
Okay.
it up. They have the Stars and Stripes. They still have the Stars
Right.
and Stripes.
They do. Well,
Yeah,
they did,
actually,
they
they do.
20 years. Yeah, yeah.
Well, they used to, we used to gripe about that because they'd come out, the headlines, 20 bombers shot down today.
Oh shit! Nobody wants to see that, right? With their family as a crew member.
That back to the States, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
My mother'd have a stroke right there on the spot. But anyway. But we used to love to read the Stars and Stripes because they tell us whether he's losing a war or winning a war. So that's
Mm-hmm.
to do.
And then, and what did you do when you got back? Did you get out right away? Did you make the military career?
I'd stay. I didn't have. But there's a point system, and if you had 85 points, and it's how long you been in service, how long you been overseas, and whatever decorations you got. That's how the point system. So I had to wait about 3 months after the war was over before I get out. So.
Okay.
So, can I ask Rosie what when you separated from the Army Air Corps, what decorations did you have?
Well, we had the air medal. You got the air medal. The way they got the air medal. If you have 10 missions, you got the air medal. Then never ever 10 missions after that, you had an oak leaf cluster.
Oh, yep.
So I had 30 air medal and 2 oak leaf clusters.
And was that with Combat V? The air medal with Combat V? I'm assuming because every one of them was combat mission.
Yeah, that and then you had battle stars. If you Battle of Italy or Air Battle of the War.
Yeah.
I think I had 5 or 6 battle stars. And then we had accommodations for the 454th Bomb Group, which I was in. That did a great job on someplace bombing, and then we got what they call a citation for that. So I had a few.
Yeah.
And then of course I had my wings. Yeah, all the flight crews had wings, of course. So
A 454th Bomb Group. What was your squadron?
738.
738th Bomber Squadron.
So we had our own, every squadron had their own headquarters.
So Styx is right on it. He had the 454th received 10 campaign streamers and 2 unit citations. And these were the squadrons: 736, 738, and 739 bombardment squadrons.
Yeah, it was 30, 38, 37, 36, and 35, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's outstanding.
But one of you guys, Mary's Peak, talked about this guy named I think was his name, Stephen Ambrose.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. The
He
Wild
wrote-
Blue, was it?
He wrote Wild Blue. That was Wild Blue, and he wrote about who was the guy that used to, the guy he wrote about. He was
George McGovern, who
George
ran for president in 72.
I was kind of interested about that. What George McGovern flew the other runway We had one right. He was on the other runway.
Oh, the parallel runway there at your base.
Runways. He was in a different group. But,
I'll be
he was but what was kind of interesting to that Wild Blue, I wrote my little book, which you guys can look at it sometime.
I would love to look at
And
your.
I'll say, Stephen Ambrose stole my thunder.
That son of a bitch.
Right on.
we had to land this, which is in my book. We couldn't make it around the gas. We had to go to this, and not very many planes did do it, but we did. And this McGovern, he was a pilot. He did the same thing. He did almost the same things that we did. That he did.
I read that many years ago after I got my ride in a B-24, and it is a well-written, amazing book.
Oh, it's a good book.
And and to read and understand, give even some kind of feeling, and we're trying to give a little sense of that tonight, of what you gents went through and how you manned up and prepared and faced the flak and faced the elements and didn't know, you left and didn't know when you were coming home. Today, you go out for a 6-month tour or a 3-month, you know when you're coming back, for the most part, unless there's hostilities.
Yeah,
But you were gone until the job was done.
Yeah.
Well, he had to get 35 missions.
Yeah.
And he was 3. He didn't quite make it because the war ended.
Yeah. But I was with my pilot. He always said he went 35 missions because he flew some before.
Right. Started before you guys got a couple extras.
Yeah. He used to tell me, he said, we were so damn lucky. We were just so lucky. We could have been killed. Many times we could have been killed.
Oh, man.
We had one time we had actually we took a mission and we got in a cloud bank. The whole formation, 28 planes going through a cloud bank. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face.
Oh boy.
Oh my God.
So the commander says, "Break formation. You're on your own."
Oh shit.
See, so,
That's even worse.
There's 28 airplanes all around you, and he says you're on your own.
well, anyway,
That sounds like a bad idea, Rosie.
the story a little bit longer. Our pilot, it was a dance, and you couldn't see, you just couldn't see anything. But a pilot experienced vertigo.
Oh yeah. Oh shit.
And because you couldn't see anything. Anyway, that's just that's okay. Anyway,
9 years later, BuzzFeed is shot down.
Yeah. Anyway, he thought we were climbing, but we were diving.
Yeah. Yeah. That's vertigo.
But the co-pilot, he saw that something was wrong here, and he told Jim, "Get your hands off the controls," and he pulled us out. And I tell you, we should have lost our wings because we were done. I knew something was wrong. I couldn't move. And then, of course, when we pulled out, man, I thought I was going to go right down to the bottom.
Yeah, from the G load, because you guys were doing a lot. When you say lost your wings, you mean the wings should have flown off the airplane, right?
They should have. That's right.
Yes. Good Lord.
A non-combat.
Yeah.
We had things like that happen to us.
And there were so many non-combat losses for things, similar to that, right?
Yeah,
guys flying in the clouds, hitting terrain, not a combat loss, just weird shit.
And then the other time we had something that was very exciting. We ran out of gas. We were going to run out of gas. And so which would mean we'd have to ditch over the Adriatic Sea. And B-24s, they weren't ditchable. You couldn't survive. So now what are we going to do? So the pilot said, well, maybe we should just turn around and fly over Yugoslavia and bail out, because that was Tito was
right.
Yeah. So he said, there's a lot of parsons over there we could get them. But a navigator, he said, no, there's a place we can go. It's called Island of Vis. And that's what Stephen Ambrose and his buddy.
Yeah. So that's where you guys set it down on that little island.
We went down there. It was a fighter plane landing strip, but we flew that big 24 bomber in there.
On fumes.
But that's what I get for having a good pilot. He was great. I tell you, that guy could do anything.
I'm picking up on a theme. From the very beginning, you've said nothing but accolades about Jim Nixon.
But anyway, so he landed. So when we got there, we weren't the only one who ran out of gas that day because we had a strong headwind. And so a lot of planes were running out of gas. And so anyway, we landed, and so we were standing around looking at ourselves. And so some guy that was stationed there, he says, he says, there's a B-24 bomber came through here 2 or 3 days ago with only one engine. And he said, they crashed and everyone was killed, but one of the guys jumped out of the plane, thought he could parachute out, but the parachute did not open. So he hit the ground.
Oof.
And the guy showed me that place. I was crying out loud, They didn't pick him up or anything, just left him there, didn't have, there's no facilities there. So,
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
so we were there till 2 or 3 days. And then the third day we were there, we was out twiddling our thumbs again, and I heard this squadron of bombers came over, but it really wasn't a squadron of bombers. It was an airplane, B-24, with one engine. And the guy landed the plane, wrecked the plane, but the guys all walked away.
Wow.
Guy, they said he'd been flying almost 30 minutes with this one engine.
Oh, shit.
But it sounded like a squadron. He had that thing.
Full on.
He had it wide open because it's all it could do, right?
Man,
Oh my
being all it
gosh.
could be. Holy smokes.
So anyway, then we stayed there a couple of days, and then we got some more fuel, and then we threw all our machine guns out, all our flak suits out, and anything else we could throw off the plane. Because a very short runway.
Got to get her back
Oh,
in
Jim.
there.
Jim took us right home.
There you
Wow.
go. Yeah, there's definitely a theme there, as Sticks pointed out. So, what did you do after the war, sir?
What's that?
What did you do after the war? What did you do for a career?
Oh, I went to the University of Kansas. They had the GI Bill at that time. So I went to the University and got a degree in engineering. I worked at it for 67 years.
Is that all? Couldn't stick with it? Couldn't make 70? What kind of engineering?
Yeah, what kind of engineering?
Engineer. I worked on dams, built dams, or designed dams. I built them.
Sure.
Oh, that's pretty incredible.
I worked for the Fish and Wildlife a little bit as a consultant. So I worked 35 years for the Bureau of Reclamation, which is a government agency.
Rosie, did your pilot or co-pilot continue flying after the war, or was that it?
Well, the pilot, he wanted to be. In fact, he got a commercial license, but bomber pilots were a dime a dozen.
Yeah,
right
that's
after
probably not a bad time right then.
Yeah, but the co-pilot, he got in the reserves, and he flew a whole career. He spent 30 years in flying fighter planes. It was just the National Guard and stuff like that.
So did he retire with eagles or stars on his collar?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. He's always in trouble. He spent what they call it when you ship
Time
out.
and hack.
Yeah, they put penalty box.
Right.
Penalty box.
Oh my gosh!
Oh man.
I can't. Wow.
I think one more thing about my pilot. I talk about him a lot, but he was a great
Sounds like an amazing man.
guy. The guy was 21 when we met him. And I think he'd been in college a little bit. I think maybe a year or two. But anyway, after the war, we used to get together all the time for reunions. And I'd say, Jim, what'd you do after you got? He said, well, I worked in, he got married, and his childhood sweetheart. And he said, I worked in store and had an elevator. And one of my first jobs was I had to push the people in the elevators because, you had what you call an elevator pusher. You push the crowd in so that you get as many people on the elevator as you could. That's where he started. And that guy ended up to be CEO of the Whitman Sampler Chocolate.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He went all the way up. I
Nice.
did, when he told me that, I said, "Well, I can believe that because that's just the kind of a guy he was. He was just,
That's awesome.
he was.
Very nice.
I think I talked too much about him, but he was such a great man.
No.
I'm here today because of him. Actually.
Oh, I get it completely. And the words you choose and the things you say paint a perfect picture. Thank you.
He's
Indeed.
a nice guy.
Indeed, they do.
Well,
I think we're going to about to say, I hate to say it, but I think it's time to land the airplane. And
but
Sir,
here's the
thank you,
thing.
I don't want to.
I know. I don't want to either. And, as soon as we end this interview, you're going to think of 6 stories that you should have told.
Yeah.
So
sure
would you have your cohort that I know is in the background right there take 6 bullets or however many bullets you think of in the next 10 minutes after it's over, and we'll have you back because
We'd love to have you back.
oh my gosh.
Yes.
And, to say that we are humbled and honored by having you tell your stories is that doesn't even do it words. Am I wrong, Repeat?
No, and all the comments that we've seen on the live stream feed tonight, people are inadequately expressing, they're grateful to you for what you did, what you offered to sacrifice for this nation. Tom Brokaw coined the phrase "the greatest generation," and indeed you are that. We are, and we're humbled and honored that you be with us, that you're being with us today. And it seems trite to say that, almost cliche, and it really isn't. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, I am so grateful to have the opportunity to sit here and listen to what you have to say and what you went through, and
Ditto, buddy.
yeah. I mean, I'm speechless. I'm emotional about it. I'm choked up,
I am too.
and I'm honored. I just I don't know what else to say, except I think the only thing we can say is 2 simple words, which is thank you. Thank you for everything you've done, for everything you sacrificed.
I'd like to share the story with you. I know that Bob Johnson got me involved in this to come here.
Okay.
He always says, why don't you edit your book and print it, for.
Right.
And I said, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I'm a low profile guy.
You're too humble, and
Well,
I
that's
get
it.
it. But I would love to read that.
So you guys are welcome to make copies of it if you want to.
Well, I'm eager to read it and appreciate it, and that's the other part that was the hallmark of this generation, right? Is that these men came home and they didn't speak of the horrors that they saw and experienced, and they just went about their lives about making the country great, and you led by example, and I wish more people would follow your example.
I always thought, thank goodness I was just 18 years old when I did this. Why? Because I looked at some of my crew members that are older. It was tougher on them. We had 2 of us 18 years old, and we didn't stupidity. We didn't know any better.
Right.
So, but,
Well, right? Ignorance is bliss, as they say, right? But then you didn't come home and chat about it and go, look, you beat your chest and go, look what we did. You just went about your lives. And,
You went to college,
we
you got an
saved the
engineering
world.
degree, and then he only did that for 70 years. Jeez.
Yeah. You saved the world, and then you went about your life. It's an amazing story. One of our listeners, Broken Staff Sergeant, again, asked, where can you find your book? I'll tell you right now, his book is not being published. He has chosen not to publish it. He's willing to share it with us. We'll respect to whatever degree we can or we will respect what your wishes are about sharing or not sharing. You've decided you don't want to publish that, and sadly, we have to respect that. I deeply hope you would reconsider and let it be published. But that's your choice. That's your book and your property.
The reason I don't want to publish it because some of them, like pictures, a lot of the pictures were borrowed, artistic sources.
Yeah.
And I'm just concerned because I remember when Ambro wrote his book, he got in trouble from plagiarism.
Oh,
And I said, I don't want to get in that mess, So
I say, tell them, let them come after me if you got it.
it's just, I'm too old for that.
Yeah, there you go. No need the hassle. I totally get that. So,
Anyway,
Well, I have one last question for you, Rosie, and it's a kind of a sensitive question. You don't have to answer it, and I totally understand. But one of our listeners typed it, and I was actually thinking the same thing. When you walk around town or move around town, does somebody have to walk behind you with a wheelbarrow to carry your giant, big brass balls around so they don't scrape on the ground as you walk?
Well, actually, I like to say that I was a coward. And, it's like most guys were,
Yeah, well,
Adversity, you get pretty scared, so.
there's no atheist in a foxhole, and
Right on.
and there's probably no atheist in a B-24 when there's flak going on. But I'm here to tell you, you lived through it and you did it over and over and over, and that, my friend, is the true.
took stones.
Well, that's what courage is. You can be scared to shit to do something, but if you keep doing it, that's courage, buddy. Or brain damage, or maybe a little of both.
Right on.
Well, I don't know.
Exactly.
I've been young. That made a difference to me. I just didn't realize the severity of the situation. And
Well,
it was
fair
at the
enough.
time. I admit it, but
Sure, sure. Well, and
Right.
that's that's what nature does for us. When you're young, you're invincible, and you don't really, think. But it doesn't change the fact that I don't know how you walked through life without dragging those giant testicles across the concrete when you walked.
so,
Right on.
Thank you.
Well, I think sadly the time has come for us to land the airplane, so we'll go ahead and do that. And I think the first and best way to do it is, again, to say those two inadequate words. Thank you to you, Rosie, and thank you to all military, active duty veterans and the families who have sacrificed birthdays with mom or dad or brother or sister, anniversaries, weddings, funerals, all that's gone lost. Well, people have chosen to put serving our country first. And we're grateful to you for that. Any other thank yous you think?
Dave Hamilton, thank you, Dave Hamilton, for helping us produce this show. Dave Hamilton does the Backbeat Media. He gives us the bandwidth to produce this. What else does he do for us, Repeat?
Yeah, actually, he works that through CashFly. CashFly gives us the bandwidth through Dave. And then we got a glossary out there. If you heard a term here tonight that we don't have up there, then let us know. But the glossary is sothereiwas.us/glossary. Has a bunch of aviation terms, a bunch of other terms. I think IP is already on there, but if you heard something tonight and you don't know what it is, write to us and we'll get it up there, please. So, and how would you write to us?
You'd write to us at Fig, Repeat, or Sticks at sothereiwas.us. And if you really want a good answer, address it to Sticks.
He's out there with the research, getting it done. Thank you, Sticks. So, hey, we got the merch store. Go get yourself some cool looking gear with the So There I Was logo on it. Designed by Sticks, by the way.
Yeah.
We've got hats, we got clocks, we got beach towels, we got the bikini. It's going to be spring soon, folks. Drinking glasses, bar glasses, coffee mugs, playing cards, you name it. So there I was.us.
I might need a bigger bikini. I put on a little weight over the winter.
Oh, boy. Some people that weigh too much shouldn't be wearing them bikinis, Fig. Just saying for a friend.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. We need to say thank you to a couple guys that make the Air Force sound good, that let us use their music, and they were also great guests on our show, the Dos Gringos. 4 albums, not one bad song on any album.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, there's Brad Silcott over at bdsaviationphotography.com. He lets us use some of his images. Amazing shots. You can't go wrong. Go look at his stuff both on Facebook and at bdsaviationphotography.com. And then the last thing, we want to ask, of course, we want to thank all the folks who go to sotherawas.us/Patreon or to donor, sotherawas.us/donate and put your hard-earned money out of your wallet and put it into our pockets so that we can keep this show coming to you. We're grateful. We're humbled. That is something you don't have to do, and we're grateful you do. If you can't contribute financially, that's okay too. But what you must do to keep listening to the show is share this show with other people that you know like aviation stories, like true American stories, because this is a great one tonight. And I don't know. Any advice for people until next week there, Fig?
Well, first of all, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. That was from our man Sticks. But honestly, stay safe and check 6.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
Wait, what did he say?
He said it's over.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
What? Was it?
I don't think so. And we're out.
Woo!
Awesome. Yeah, baby. Oh, that was fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, Rosie, you are amazing, sir.
You are an American treasure. Thank you.
I can't.
And I know, you know what? I feel badly. I don't want to make you feel bad by doing that, by saying that.
No.
This has been such a privilege for us.
Yes. Ditto. Absolutely ditto.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Well, okay. If you think a couple things that if something pops into your head, please come back and tell us, because it's gold. I would love to hear your stories.
Indeed. Absolutely. So.
Oh, and just as a side note, you're describing, you talked us through a day in the life, of a mission type thing, and I finished my career in the Air Guard flying C-130s, and I had a few combat tours over in Afghanistan, and the day in the life is very similar to the way it is today, with some, like our load masters, flight engineers, they'd go to the airplane and get the airplane ready. The officers would go to get the intelligence brief and the weather and all that, and then we all meet up at the airplane at the end. But it was very reminiscent of what we do today. However, we have it a whole lot better today than you ever had it.
Right? You weren't sleeping on a bench, Fig.
No, and as a matter of fact, our enlisted troops stay with the officers. We stay all together as a crew. We have our own crew quarters. Everybody stays together. How about that?
Awesome.
Yeah, that's different.
It is different. Yeah. It's a whole lot different. It's a whole lot better than you guys had it.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
you.
Well, I'm going to. It's now almost 3:00 in the morning over in Belgium and
oh
the
my
Netherlands.
gosh.
So yeah. So I'm going to kill the live stream here and say thank you to everybody who joined us. And as Dick says, not unlike the duty of a SAR pilot in the Coast Guard. Only in posh quarters. Yeah, the Coast Guard. They had to go, but they didn't have to come back. So I'm going to end the live stream here for everybody and say thank you very much for joining us. Go out there, tell all your friends about the show. Share it. Make sure the word gets spread, because wow, this is another great one, and we're privileged to have you. So here we go. Good night, everybody. God bless, and we're going to end the stream now. So